You just entered the bear crawling nation on the No Agenda Stream.
This is R. Mordant McFall, and welcome to the other side of live. Welcome, everybody, to the #1 late night, You're Not the Boss of Me motivational show, otherwise known as the other side of live. The working title for tonight's episode is Down with O.P.P, Other People's Perceptions. Tonight we are live. Well, hang on. Are you down with O.P.P?
Yeah, you know me.
Okay, tonight we are live from the Aerial Angels Lair in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the Bears Den in Monticello, Georgia. That erstwhile singer, that crooner on the other line is the dark side of positive, Charles McFall. Say hello, Charles.
Hello, Charles.
You didn't tell me you were going to sing the song.
Well, you have to, don't you? You have to. Are you down with O.P.P? Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, you know me.
You know what O.P.P is?
Yeah, other people's perceptions for the purposes of the show. Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
It was almost O.P.O, but I didn't think that I have enough punch. You know, other people's opinions. Now tonight,
we got to make weird sounds like up-all.
Instead of up. People are going to start tuning us out right now.
But
tonight is the last night that we are broadcasting from Kalamazoo, Michigan. It is my last night here unless something goes horribly awry. I am stabbing Midwestward tomorrow, heading for the Minneapolis-St. Paul area by way of Milwaukee.
Think about it.
I had to. I'm like Kenosha. Should I say Chicago? Should I say Milwaukee? Milwaukee. It's all in the middle. So that is what is going on in my life right now. My room is kind of a shambles as I am packing everything up. How are you doing?
How can you tell the difference from when you just got there?
There's less of a mess. And it's not to imply that it's cleaner. It just implies that, it looks a little more vacant in certain areas of the room. And the mess has been moved downstairs to the staging area, and I pack from there. So.
Cool.
That's
Very
it.
cool.
Last week's episode was episode number 54, Ass in Chair. And we got that title from Nora Roberts' famous quote about writing, how she was so prolific. Ass in the chair was her answer, her rule. What do you think about that episode?
Well, I was tired. I was in a weird place, and it felt odd going into it because the title implies if you want to get work done, you have to sit there and get it done, which I've been doing for the last couple of years. And going in, I was kind of negative about it. I was like, I don't. But you turned it around, as did the audience who yelled at me a little bit. But you turned it around, and I learned something about yourself. I learned something about yourself. I learned something about you and about myself that, you have to realize what part of the journey you're in, because you and I, sir, have no problems when we're ready to go to get our asses in the chair. I think when we don't want to, we have to figure out why we don't want to. And sometimes, every once in a while, we have to figure out when to get out of that chair and go do something else.
Right. I think for me, it seems like since I've been working on my blogs, it seems like every Monday is where my body is going, no, you've worked all weekend. You're going to be restless. You're going to be, if you try to work on anything right now. And I had a better time of it yesterday because instead of going, no, I'm going to sit here and do this, I understood what was going on. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go ahead and watch some TV. And then by the time I pretty much worked it out the same amount of time I did last week, where I wasn't working until 1:30 in the morning, but I got it written probably around midnight. But it was from the same amount of time on, where my body was, okay, you can work now. If you really want to, you can do this. So I was able to do that. So yeah, there is a rhythm to your body where your body's like, you've worked enough. Take a break. Yeah. Recharge, or do something else. Especially when you're going full tilt all weekend in the hot summer sun.
Now, the show Ass and Chair can be found, of course, on theothersideoflive.com. which we need to mention for a second. We figured something out about the archive, but it also is found on a whole different other site currently.
Oh, yeah, where's that? Oh, yeah, where's that?
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Take two. It can be found on a whole nother site currently.
Oh, yeah, where's that?
Would be on the rentoutfitters.com. We got this awesome write-up in their blog there that made me, giddy for glee. I mean, I was really happy.
Yeah,
my work's never been picked up by somebody else, so that was awesome.
You actually got in touch with me about it and said, hey, look, they did this nice thing for us. And I think I saw it first on our Facebook page where you had a link, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's nice. And I saw the link, then I'm like, okay, that they linked to us. That's great. They linked to us. They linked to the show. People do that. They, whatever, they kind of like throw it forward. And then I hit the link.
That's not quite how it was. That's nice. People like us. Go back to your desk at work, Charles.
Yeah, you're all excited. Really, I didn't understand.
I'm telling you, it's awesome.
I was like, all right, whatever, dude. So when I went to the link and saw it was a link to their website where they had this huge write-up about us, I was like, oh, this is a big deal. So I was very appreciative of that, and we shall tip them out.
July 30th post, and it's there, and it references to both of us. It starts off talking about how, and I don't even know who the author is because it's by a pen name, obviously, in the comments here, or not in the comments, in the posting, but it talks about why they listen, what happened with their day, and then got right into the latest episode, which is number 54, and actually references that one, Cross the Finish Line, and Bigger, Badder, Better, More, and links to all of those shows for us, and I like it.
Yeah, we will put a link to that in our show notes for here. We're also going to put a link on our Facebook page so you can find it there.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, we are.
Are we?
Well, they did, but it went into the little section that other people go to. Did you do it already?
Like 5 minutes ago.
Oh.
Because I prepared for this show. I put it there so I could go to BCN Tosol on Facebook, and it's right there. Yay me. Pat on my back.
Yeah, I am patting your back. You're awesome. You're awesome. Now, this is a kind of a weird lead-in for tonight's show, because down with O.P.P, other people's perception, the first thing I have written down here, it's none of your business what other people think of you. I was like, well, sometimes it's okay. But we're talking about other people's opinions about you and how they can hold you back. And actually, you have a story going into this, don't you? About why we came on here.
Yeah.
Why don't you start with that?
Inspiration. It's not really a direct story, but my approach on this was, I feel like, and I've done it, I am just as guilty, but I feel like we as human beings allow other people's opinions, their concepts, their perceptions, and their statements really push us into places we don't want to go in negative ways. And recently on the other side of, this is on side, I'm sorry, the Bear Crawling Live show where I had Lala Siegfried on, we do a controversy in the first half hour. And of course, in the papers currently at the time is Dan Cathy's comments that as the president of Chick-fil-A and representing Chick-fil-A as a company, that they don't believe in gay marriage, that they believe in a man and woman, blah, blah, blah. And it was a big controversy and made for great radio. And Lala and I handled it very well. It went viral. And some of my gay friends got really upset. And of course,
hang on. What episode is that?
It's the latest one. It's 287.
Okay, go ahead.
And I realized one of the reasons I got upset was I was defensive, which I shouldn't be. But one of the reasons I was upset for them, I was like, I get you're fighting a battle, and I'm taking this down from the big gay marriage issue down to other people's perceptions. This is one man who runs a company, but this company is not in every city in the nation. It's not in every city in the world. Most cities actually don't have a Chick-fil-A. And this company's been a big Christian fundamentalist corporation since the day it was founded. Truett Cathy was a huge fundamentalist Christian. I believe he passed away. Dan Cathy's his son. I mean, this dude has felt that gay marriage was wrong since the day he was born, longer than I've been alive. and he makes a statement to a fundamentalist press, which of course goes around the world because it's against gay marriage, it's fodder for the elections, right? But people are getting upset, and my heart kind of went out to him. I was like, why are you getting angry at a company that's not even in your town? You're letting this opinion, this perception, this statement put you in a place that you can't even hear me, your friend, talk to you. You know, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring this.
And you got a lot of flack from your friends, from people who have sat show after show after show and heard your stance on gay marriage. Heard
right,
that
record, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
know, for the record. And yeah, it was an interesting response. And this isn't about them, and this isn't about us. It's about I've done this on another show too. I said something, and it was the way it came across. It was a perception. There was I've done this too. My wife, another story to bring it back to me, so I don't feel like I'm picking on my friends, because I'm not. I'm like, why do we let somebody that we don't know, who really has no effect on our lives whatsoever, make a statement that makes us upset for even a minute? I don't understand. You know, and I did that. My wife used to get mad at me. I would come up with hypothetical situations about work when we were first married, and I would get myself into a rage in the car. And she goes, you realize none of this has ever happened or probably will happen. You're actually saying what if, and then you start getting into the story, and you start getting angry and mad and violent when this is all pretend. It's the same thing. Why do we let, and there's more stories to come, but Mordant, why do we let other people, and we'll bring this back to, of course, our families who do matter to us, but other people's perceptions of us change how we perceive ourselves?
Well, part of it is the way you're describing it. I think is you're getting caught up in the drama. You're getting caught up in the, you know, you want something that you can take a stance for, and you want to be able to stand up against something and stand for something. But I think that as far as why do we let other people's opinions affect us? Well, everybody wants to be liked, and it sounds like a very wussy thing. Oh, I just want to be liked, but that's human nature. You know, we are a social species. We are, you know, we come together. We, even when we weren't in cities, we were in farming communities and nomadic, but we were in tribes. We're a social species with a hierarchy in that species, and that hierarchy determines your experience in life. So you want people to like you so that you're esteemed higher. Everybody wishes to be respected on some level. You know, whether that is from other people, from themselves, from God, from whatever it is, you want to be esteemed highly. You know, self-respect is a big thing, although many of us don't keep it that, you know, don't esteem it that highly. You know, we esteem other people's opinions of us more highly than that. So I think it's human nature. That's the why. Now, are these people really, you know, making you mad? Are these people really making you sad? Well, nobody can really do that. You have to give them permission. Nobody has that control over you. Maybe a certain situation can cue up a tear. You know, maybe you want to watch a movie, you're like, oh, I'm sad, or oh, I'm mad about this, or oh, I'm excited about that. But you have to give that permission. So on every time you get an emotional reaction from somebody, you're giving them permission. You're giving them a little bit of control. You're going, you know what, I'm going to let you do this to me. Or I'm going to do this in response to that, because nobody's really doing it to you.
Right. I took a long time to learn that, and there's still times when I'll get mad because putting it back, you know, I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm trying to put blame back on myself and not put blame on my friends or say they're acting this way, and that's reading into it. So I'm just trying to be clear that it's an inspiration for this conversation. It's not about that. But immediately when I saw the Twitter feed, and that I was included in it, and that basically I didn't get it when he was listening to that controversial part, and that I didn't get it. It hurt my feelings, and I got defensive, and I felt the immediate need to get out there and make him understand me. And I had to step back and go, well, no, that's not right for many reasons, but that was my perception. I didn't take into account his feelings. He's a gay man in the South who's gone through a lot. He's a good friend of mine. I had him on my show a few times and love him to death. And I didn't stop and go, he's upset because this is something he's living in. And he's not responding to the comments. He's not even really responding to what I'm saying. He was responding to the situation as a whole and his personal investment in it. But initially, I was the same as him. I was like, well, I do get it. Why are you saying that? You're not listening to me. Da, 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 da. I had that need to, I guess, like you said, be not respected, but for me, it's being heard, which might be the same thing. I don't know. And I didn't do that. I mean, I did it once, realized I was making a mistake and not respecting him. And so I backed off.
I think one of the things when he says you don't get it, let's say that you know, he's been gay all his life. He's dealt with all the controversy. He's had to keep part of his life a secret, not because because he's worried about what people think about him, and maybe he's not, but partially because he's in fear of his life sometimes.
Sure.
And you have been waving a banner of, you know, you're pro-gay marriage. You have, you know, problem equality for everybody, and so you're somebody he's come to trust. And then at a moment when this is such a high, you know, everybody can see it. Everybody can see it. It's I can't remember the words for it. The whole Chick-fil-A controversy is out there. In a moment, he turns to you and you're going to say something about it. And you say, well, you know what? This guy has a right to say something. Now, you may be right, but where he's coming from, his perception is he's been betrayed. Somebody he trusted just slapped him in the face, something he did not expect from you. And that's how he took it. Now, and maybe because that's what he's been getting all his life elsewhere, and when you do that, it's just like, so you're going to side with this guy? Even though this gentleman does have a right to his opinion, he has a freedom of speech in this country. Unfortunately, a lot of people use that freedom of speech against other people.
Sure.
So I think his knee-jerk reaction was his perception that you were betraying him, which I don't think, knowing you, that wasn't the case. You were just going, well, yeah, that guy does have a right to it's his company. He can do what he wants with it. Unfortunately, your friend or your listener is rubbed so raw, he's already sore by that even a little poke is going to hurt. So I think that hurt him. He allowed himself to be hurt.
Let's bring it down to more of a local level, and I'll tell a little bit of a story, and you can take it from here. Was beyond the gay marriage thing, we take other people's opinions, even people we don't like. We take their opinions and let them shape us. And when I first started working emergency medical services, I was very naive. I was very sheltered. I hadn't been out in the world very much. And I wasn't great at what I did. I needed somebody to help me. But instead, what I got were people who treated me like I was stupid, who talked to me behind my back and sometimes even to my face with disdain. And I hated them for it. And even later on, when I knew I was good at what I did, when I had others telling me, you're doing a great job, we've seen improvement, people who mattered, my boss, people who mattered telling me, these people surrounding me could put me down instantly. Just being around them made me sick, made me upset, made me hate myself. Why do we let people like that, when you know you're doing a good job, why do we let our coworkers and their opinions, based on even jealousy and whatever. I mean, I'm not saying they're jealous of me, but for whatever reason, they were putting me down even when I did a good job and had other people tell me I did a good job. Why do we let that happen?
Well, I think that part of it is because you have part of you thinks that they're right. You have your own self-esteem, your own chatter going in your head, going, you know, you're a fraud, you're not that good, you don't know what you're doing, and of course, I'm just reiterating some of the stuff that goes in my head. And then if somebody stabs through with that and shines a light on it, then maybe I'll get defensive and angry, because part of me is like, oh, they're right, or how did they see that, or whatever, or you know, I'm fighting against that. I don't need to hear that from you, whatever it is. If a child comes up to you and says the sky is purple, you're not going to get angry at the child and smack the child around, because it's a child and it doesn't affect you. What the child said does not affect you. But if the child or somebody comes up and says something to you that does hit home, then you're going to get mad. So that's why whenever I'm doing a session with somebody and somebody starts to get mad, I'm like, okay, I'm hitting something here, because they're getting affected. If they weren't affected, then it would be like, oh, there's nothing here. You know, if somebody says something goofy and does something goofy to me, or says, you know, calls me a name, I'm like, So what? It's kind of funny. And I'm not that. Who cares? But if I have doubts about myself, or if
Right.
it's said loud enough and other people are starting to go, yeah, and it affects their treatment of me, then I start, then I start taking it personally.
So how do we go? Because I can kind of know my path, but I'm looking for not to take over your show, to be honest, or not your show, not to overwhelm and talk all the time. You know what I'm saying? But how do we get from that damaged person who every little comment, even constructive criticism, every little comment is crushing and damaging, and instant defenses, instant F the world.
Well,
how do we go from that to not even, hey, I'm okay. You can call me it all you want. It doesn't matter, which is where I am now for the most part. I mean, you can call my wife all kind of names. I know you're the one with the problem. I'm not that guy who goes, don't you call my wife. I know my wife. I know sometimes she's a good person, sometimes she's not. It doesn't matter what you call her. I'm not going to get upset by that. But how do we get, not even to that point, how do we get to the point of, oh, well, I listen more to the people who are giving me positive and less to the people who are beating me down?
Well, you have to realize that, first of all, if you're going from 0 to 60 at the speed of some stimulus, somebody's comment, then you've got a lot going on in you. If you're ready to go F the world at everything that's said and taking everything personally on the level that as you just said it to me, then that's something you need to look at. There's a lot of stuff going on inside you that you're going to need to work on, especially when these people are talking to you or talking around you. If it is affecting you and it is making you mad, maybe that's something to look at. Why am I angry? Why is this affecting me? It's not about them. They're always going to be, a jerk. They were a jerk before when it didn't bother me, and they're a jerk now. Why is it bothering me? Because, Mikey's a jerk and it bothers me. Stanley's a jerk and it doesn't bother me. What's Mikey saying that's different than what Stanley's saying?
Right.
Maybe Mikey's been in my face about it all the time, or maybe he's hitting a little close to home, or maybe I'm insecure about that kind of stuff. That's the first thing. Is you got everything centers on you. And it's about finding your center and finding your path. Yeah, everything centers on you, Charles. The other thing you have to realize that it's all about perception. It really, really is. Everybody's got their own stuff going on in the world. And their opinion of you is colored by that. It's not, this person's out to get me. It's not personal. Unless they're specifically gunning for you, which is really, really rare. I'm going to take this person down. I want you, Balboa. Unless they're specifically gunning for you, it's not personal. Everybody is hip deep in their own sheep sugar, and the smell is why they're making that funny face, not you. And you have to realize that. So that's something that I always talk about my Tortuga buddies, my Tortuga brothers. When something would happen and I would piss off one of them or whatever, I'm like, wow, they're just in a bad mood all the time. I did something wrong. No, it wasn't me. I was just a lucky winner, or I just stepped in it. They had all this other stuff going on. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. Well, if I had, might have changed my interaction with them, for one thing. But everybody's got their own stuff going on. Realize that if somebody's coming at you, there's a reason for it. We've seen this, either read it in the books or seen it in a movie, the bully who's picking on everybody. And then you go and see the bully at his home, and you see where he is picked on by his parents. Where there's abuse there. So, I see where that comes from. That doesn't make it right, but you understand it. So understand it's not personal. And if you can center yourself, if you can find your own place of being secure in yourself and knowing who you are and knowing that you're an okay person, if you can do that, then all the stuff going on in the world around you, you're going to be that eye of the storm. You're going to be that calm. And people are going to gravitate to you. The other thing I'm going to say about all of this, you say when your friends are saying this to you, and what do you do when your friends are coming down or what or people like that around you are coming down? Start surrounding yourself with different people. Because as you become more positive, you're going to start noticing a lot more people. You're going to notice the negativity that's coming at you. That's the first thing you're going to notice, and you're going to want to move. It's like a smoker quitting smoking. One of my roommates here just quit smoking. And you can't smell the smoke on yourself until you quit, and then it reeks from all your friends that didn't bother you before. So it's just like that. Find better friends if that's the way they're treating you, or excuse yourself from the situation, which is what I had to do.
And sometimes you have to learn to get tougher skin. I was at a job where I wasn't qualified to quit and go to get a better job. I had to tough it out until I found somebody. It took about 6 months to 8 months of toughing it out till somebody took me under their wing and not only showed me how to be a good employee, how to be a good I wasn't even a paramedic at the time. I was an EMT, but also how to be a man, how to grow up, how to make better choices. And they did that by investing in my life. And I just had to tough it out. You have to look around for that light, that positive thing, because sometimes this is a work situation. Sometimes, especially now where it's hard to get a new job, you can't just quit. And also, I think there's something to be said about not quitting. Sometimes you need to be around people who are bad for you just to learn how to deal with that. But hopefully you find more positive around you than you do negative.
Right. I can't remember if it was Jack Canfield or Bob Proctor. They were telling a story about a gentleman who, a gay gentleman who was always being picked on at work. And he's, I'm constantly being picked on at work. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. He went into a session with them. And they said, well, the first thing I want you to do is quit looking for trouble. Stop looking for and saying that these people are all picking on you, and start looking at life as if it's a better life. Because in this situation, the law of attraction was in effect. Because when he changed his mentality, in fact, he was a stand-up comedian, and he would go, and when he would do a stand-up routine, he would, people would heckle him, and he'd fall flat on his face. Once he changed his perception, once he changed his outlook once he quit being the victim, people are out to get me, and started actually having a positive outlook on life, something changed in either his delivery or just the energy behind it or whatever. They started laughing with him instead of at him. And he became very, very successful, still being exactly who he was.
Right. Now, so I'm not trying to move us on, but time is running out, and I feel like we have so much to talk about. Mari in the chat room said, it's past now, but she said something along the lines of, you have to become resilient to that kind of negativity. And I wanted to ask, because I kind of think tough skin is not the solution because of my path. And my path was, I could have the toughest shield all day long. I was still mush on the inside. I was still destroyed on the inside. And, I still was hard on myself and had those messages of worthlessness. I think it is resilience, or let me ask you this. Is it better to be more resilient or to have more self-worth? Which one works out?
Have more self-worth. Because resilient, you're still putting up a wall and you're fighting. And that's more about discipline. And it's not about discipline, it's about changing who you are. It's more about being, and this is going to get a little, Taoist woo-woo, but it's more about being at peace with yourself. You look at Gandhi, you look at Martin Luther King Jr., you look at those people. If somebody came up and said things against them, they're like, I know who I am. I don't need, your opinion. All they had was love. All they had was love. In the face of adversity, all they had was love. Gandhi helped change a nation peacefully. Rare in our world, not just in that country, rare for all time. Most changes, government changes, are done through violence. They say violence never solves anything. Well, actually, it solved a lot of stuff, almost everything. Not in a good way, but that is the fact of the matter. However, sure. Gandhi did it peacefully. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did it peacefully. And it's stuck. I think that you change everything from the inside out. The same thing with you. If you're more, have a greater self-worth, then when somebody comes to get you and making fun of you, you can laugh along with them, or you can say it doesn't matter, or you can see their pain and see where they're coming from. Now that's really deep and centered, and something that I'm striving for. And I have to admit, I'm not quite there yet. I still have my reactionary, you said this and you mean this about me. And, and then later on I'd come back and go, I was kind of a jerk. I'm sorry.
So are you trying to say you're seeking contentment with who you are?
Dude, I was learning this past week. I got into an altercation with my buddy Jeff, and it wasn't even a yelling match, but part of it was I felt stupid about what I had done. And it was just I didn't call him and let him know plans had changed. That's all. And he he felt bad about that. Like, and we all kind of got huffy about each other. And then I got pissy about something else and was throwing stuff around a little bit and just, wow, you got to do this. And it took me longer than normal. I think I was, might have been 45 minutes later that I called him back and said, I'm sorry, I'm such a jerk. In fact, if you don't want to be my friend anymore, I give you permission. This is your out. He laughed at that. And then everything mended, everything was fine. But at the end of the conversation, I was like, listen, here's your window of opportunity. If you don't want to be my friend, it's okay. So yeah, no, man, I'm still working on this. I have moments of greatness though with it. And not always, and it's hardest with the people that you're closest with, your family, your friends, and the Tortugas are definitely my family, So you're going to see a lot more of that guy.
Now, before we slide into family, because that's already been brought up in the chat room, and I know you and I have already talked about going there. You were talking about going woo-woo, and how all you have is love. That kind of misses heads, and I wanted to rephrase it a little bit because I am the dark side of woo-woo. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's for me, it was the damage. I had so much damage in my life, so much pain, that some of it was self-inflicted, a lot was external, that, yeah, you got near me and I would just rip your heart out. I would rip your throat out. I would be overreactive to, like I said earlier in the show, I would make up situations in my head, talking to somebody not even involved, and be ready to punch the crap out of a door, and it's like, wow, you got issues, dude. And I did. And here's a good relation to it. Everybody in their life has probably had a paper cut or a hangnail. And every time you hit it, it hurts worse. Or you bit your lip, right? You bite your tongue or your lip, and then it swells. So it makes you bite it more, and it hurts even more. That's the damage we have on the inside. Of course, it's a lot worse than that, but this is an easy metaphor. You get hit on that paper cut by somebody who doesn't mean anything by it, you want to backhand them. But it's an accident. I bite my own lip, I want to punch myself in the face. It's a weird reaction that I have. It's pain. I think sometimes putting up those walls, really safe boundary walls, not defensive walls with big stakes and skulls on them, but, just, hey, the police barriers, you don't need to cross that wall. If you cross that wall, there will be a problem, because I realize I have something that's painful that needs time, at minimum. It needs time to let the swelling go down and let the healing begin. A lot more than that. Sometimes it needs medicine. Sometimes you need therapy. I needed therapy. I went through that. We can get into that on some show. But, we need time. So putting up those walls, and that will lead me into family, because Rock Girl asked, because you're talking about excusing yourself from your friends, finding new friends, excusing yourself from a situation at work. And she says, what if it's your family that's negative and you can't leave?
What if it's your family that's white supremacist and you're not? What if it's your family who's anti-gay and you're not, and you're gay? What if, and these are extremes that I'm using, what if it's your family who is atheist and you're Christian? What if it's your family who is Christian and you're atheist?
What if it's just your family who wants to keep you as a 12-year-old kid and never recognize that you're your own person?
Right.
Or what if it's your family who thinks that, I'm going to steal this from Chef Jack, she's given me permission to use this, as a story she tells all the time. What if it's your family who says you have to have a job when you're actually chasing and catching your dream as a chef, and 2 years later when you're a successful chef, they're going, how's the job search going? What if it's your family who just doesn't see you, and therefore they hit that negativity all the time?
Right. Well, you're responsible. We're always in a habit of saying here at the other side of live, you are responsible for your own experience. It's up to you what kind of experience you have. You have your family, and maybe they're not going to believe in what you do. You have friends, and maybe they're not going to believe in what you do. It's up to you. I gave some extreme examples. What do you do then? Well, if you're really at peace, if you really know who you are, then you love them still. Most of us can't do this. You talked about putting up walls to just kind of defensive walls. Everything happens in stages, baby. Come on. You're not going to go, all right, I'm here. I'm going to love the world, and I'm not going to let that bother me. But gosh darn it, it does.
I gotta I got to throw the darker side of positive in. I don't even know if it's that. It's just where I am. This is the honest side of the bear. How about that?
Right. That's just where you are. But I'm saying don't come down on yourself. Don't expect to become, enlightened in a day.
Well, it's not okay. I'll give you that, but some of that covers the what, but not the how. So I'll tell you my how, and this is definitely not the road for everybody. But I would get a phone call. Being married to my wife, I get a phone call from my mom who'd want me to come back to her house to do something. It's always to do something. And I couldn't tell her no. And I would hang up the phone. I'd be so angry. I didn't want to go. And my wife's like, then why are we going? And I'd be like, I don't know. And I'd be miserable the whole time. And one little thing she said would set me off. And there's been many instances. And there was a ride from my parents' house, the hour ride back to my house, that I wasn't decompressing onto my wife. You say we vent and it's, but no, after so harshly and so often, you're actually, when you decompress, you're hitting people emotionally, whether you mean to or not. And it was a decompression. I'd be yelling about their situation. I'd be yelling about their opinions, to the point that I finally started putting up boundaries. And my mother just mowed right over them. And I put up another one, and she mowed right over it. And I put up one around my wife, and she tried to go over it. And every time she did that, this is my path. I'm being clear here. This is the one I went down. It was very difficult, and it had negative ramifications. I'm not saying, oh, go do this. I'm telling you, I did what I had to do for myself. I put up a wall. I said, please don't cross this. Boom, came across it. Put up another one, harsher. Don't cross this. She crossed it. Put up another one, protecting my wife, protecting myself, to the point that at a point in time when my daughter was 2 years old or less, or maybe between 2 and 3, they would only want my son to come to their house to spend the night. And my daughter was old enough to know that they didn't want her, and I was not having that anymore. So I said, this is how it has to be, and that wasn't good enough. And it blew up into a fight to where my father, who has never put his foot down on anything, for some reason decided to put his foot down here. Maybe it's the universe saying this, because there is a positive out of this. But, I mean, it was just, it was a fight, ugly, and he finally said, I couldn't come back to that house until I apologized to, quote, his wife. And I said some things that he didn't like. And just, that was it. That was done for 2 years. For 2 years. Didn't talk to him. Didn't take my kids over there. My wife didn't talk to him. There was nothing. We didn't send them pictures, nothing, for 2 years. And finally, something was changing in me. I think we were at the point we'd started doing the other side of life. I know I was working with you at the time because it was just your influence and different things going on, that I said, I grew up, because that was the ultimate barrier. That was the ultimate. There is no excusing yourself. There's no at peace here. It was, I couldn't do anything else but blow them away. Put up the wall and says, you cannot be a part of my life and my kids' life because of how much you screwed me up. I'm not having that with my kids. Because I couldn't see past that, And in that 2 years, I was able to finally decompress, finally let those swollen wounds go down and deal with issues as I could see them, to the point that I'm not at peace with them. I like my dad. Okay. I still don't like my mom, but the positive was I healed, to the point that I could allow them back into our lives, and they get to see the grandkids and be a part now.
Right. But it sounds like from the get-go, in the beginning, not now, but in the beginning, you met hostility with hostility. You met affront with affront. They insulted you and your family on some level, and so you want to hurt them back. Don't cross this line. These are almost, these are ultimatums. That's not love. That's not, okay, well, let's see what we can, that's not bend like reed. That's like, I am iron gate. You will not get past. None shall pass. Until you came to a point where you were able to, your parents were your parents were your parents. And maybe you know why they said those things and did those things. They may just be mean people. I don't know. Or maybe there was a reason for it that is misguided. But your parents are your parents, or whatever influence is causing this, distress on you. It's up to you how you're going to be. One of the things you could have done there was remove yourself from their situation. Hey, look, this is obviously not okay. You want my son over here, not my daughter. It's hurting her feelings. And if that's the way it's going to be, then you know what? They can't come over anymore. And maybe we'll see you guys when we're out. I don't know what your deal is, but that's not okay.
These are kind of some of the things that honestly I did try. I mean, they're documented.
And then just remove yourself. And then just remove yourself from the situation. But you kept engaged.
But sometimes you can't just remove. You're right. I did stay engaged, but that's why on the darker side here is I'm showing you. I'm not saying it's the right way,
right?
But I hear you saying remove yourself, and my mind goes, "You're true. You're right. There's truth there." I could have disengaged. I didn't know how.
Right. You weren't there yet. You weren't ready. And I'm just saying that if you had that, and maybe it took all this time for you to realize there was a problem, so that when you saw another way, you can go, "Oh, that's a better way." Because maybe before, if you hadn't gone through all that stuff, you wouldn't have taken the better way yet. Maybe you had to go through. Sometimes I need to do something so wrong, or I need to do something wrong long enough that I know, okay, this isn't going to work. Now what else? People will tell me that's not going to work. I'm like, let me do it. Okay, I see that now. I mean, you've had that experience with me. We got to do it this way because I've got to see it not work. Right. Okay, I see it not work. Wait, let me try one more time. Nope. Okay. So maybe that was the reason. Who knows what the reason was? But we're talking about other people's opinions, and it's not just not just it sounds like we're getting almost into bullying again. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it's none of your business what other people think about you. And when we're talking about chasing or catching our dreams as well, and I don't want to miss out on that tonight. So when you're trying to do something that's great in your life and other people can't see it, other people don't understand it, and they call you down or they make fun of it or whatever, what do you do then? There's Jack Canfield told a story of this woman named Catherine Lanigan who had gone to a college, and some Harvard professor showed up. I think he was doing a temporary teaching stint there. And it was a writing class that she had. She had a full scholarship with writing. And she turned something in and she got an F on it. And she's like, what? And then something else she turned in and she got an F on it. And finally she went to him and said, what's going on? And he goes, well, you got an F. You're not that good. In fact, you're actually terrible. She goes, I'm not. I'm here on a scholarship. And he goes, well, you were probably very good at your high school, but here you're not good. And in fact, if you keep doing this, I'm going to fail you. And she goes, well, this is my scholarship. If you fail me, I'll lose that. He goes, well, then I'll tell you what. And here's where she made what Jack Canfield calls the deal with the devil. He says, if you promise me that you will never write, and of course you can, you could write, but you can't pursue writing as a career or as what you're trying to get for your degree. If you don't pursue writing for your degree, I'll pass you. I'll give you a passing grade, and you can keep your scholarship. So she took that deal with the devil. 15 years later, she's doing something, and there was a movie, and I think she was in Texas. And her and a bunch of her friends, there was not much going on in their town, so they went down to see the movie, everything happening there. They went to talk to the actors. She went to talk to the writers, and the writers were like, why are you talking to us? She goes, well, I like writing. I think it's cool. And they're like, okay, well, what have you written? She goes, oh, I don't write. And the guy's like, what do you mean you don't write? Everybody can write. What do you mean? Well, I was told I can't write. Who told you that? Oh, well, this Harvard professor. And he's like, BS. I'm a writer. Tell you what, write something, send it to me, and I'll tell you if it's any good. I make my living at writing. So she took a year and wrote a novel, and she sent it to the guy, and the guy liked it. And he showed it to a publisher who liked it. And they went ahead and they approached her, and they decided to publish the book. That book was Romancing the Stone, which was made into a movie. The following book she wrote was Jewel of the Nile, which was made into a movie. 15 years she lost out on, we missed out on, because she listened to somebody else's opinion. Don't let somebody else's opinion sway you when you feel that this is right. At least get a second opinion.
Let's take it to the positive side too. We seek out positive reinforcement, and even I today, I really want my parents to understand what kind of a deal that I am, big or not. Understand what I'm doing with the other side of life. Understand that if and when we get the word from Blog World, which today is the closing day of submitting anything to Blog World. So hopefully hopefully by next show we'll have an announcement to make. But even when that happens, and I tell my wife's family or my family, I'm going to Vegas to be a speaker at this conference that's the biggest conference in what I do. They're going to be like, oh, that's nice. We seek out that positive thing that we don't get sometimes. But what about when people are overly positive? Should we let that affect our opinion of ourselves?
What do you mean?
Oh, what you do is great.
Oh, so when you say, when you kind of downplay that?
No, I'm talking about like, it took you a while to get used to me. You'd be like, throw off this idea. And I'd be like, at first, like, oh, that's amazing. But as we got to working with each other, my style of working with people is I expect you to be amazing because you've presented that to me. And if it's crap, I'll give you my feedback on it. But if it's amazing and it works, we'll move on to the next thing. And there's been a few times the running joke between us is what? That's great, Ricky.
That's great, thanks.
Yeah. And because we seek out that positive thing, but I'm bad about this. Oh, I assume that you're great because we're working on this together now. We're moving forward, and instead of going, wow, that's really great. But what about the people who do when you come up with something? Let's say it was your first blog, and you came up with something. You went and you showed it to, let's say you showed it to Ronnie Ross, and she goes, oh, that's amazing. And every blog after that, to blog 100 or 200, she's like, that's amazing. It's the most amazing blog you've ever done. Do we let that go, wow, we're super special? Or should we not let that affect us as much as we try not to let the negative affect us?
You mean try to keep a balance, try to keep ourselves down? I don't think that's ever really a problem. I don't think that's ever, I don't think that's ever really trouble. There's enough negativity in the world that if somebody is consistently and honestly positive with you, I think you can take that. I think you can tell your children they're great. I think you can tell them you can do anything that you want to do, that whatever you apply yourself to. It does not matter if your teachers say that you're dumb. There's a story in Thomas Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, where this guy, and the title of the story is Smartest Kid in the Dumb Row, where his teachers, they had this dumb row in the back, and she put him back there. And she goes, yeah, you guys, we're just going to pass you. You guys are not, she called them dumb. And his parents took him aside and said, you're not dumb. You can do whatever you want, and we will help you achieve whatever you want to do. Now, this guy went on to become an entrepreneur and went on to become a decamillionaire because of his teacher saying he was dumb. And he calls himself the smartest kid in the dumb row. It's like all these people out there who are really, really smart, they became engineers, and some of them became doctors, and some of them, they all began working for him because he found another way to apply his smarts. So I advocate telling your children that they're brilliant. You can be the best. Now, also teaching them to be kind to others.
Right. But you have to, I want to classify that with, you don't just go, oh, honey, that's all. I mean, I'm not trying to say you patronize them. I'm saying you don't just say everything they do is awesome, because I've seen that damage kids. Here's what I've done with mine. It's the only thing I can speak about is with mine, is I'll tell them all the time, dude, you can bend the world to your will. You will rule this world one day. That's what Daddy's doing now. I'm going to pass it on to you. You're all the heir apparent. You can choose your destiny. You want to be a gymnast, you can do that. Does that mean I'm going to tell you that half-assed cartwheel you just did that's nothing near where you wanted to be is good? No. I'm going to tell you we're going to work harder at it. I'm going to help you work harder at it. I'm going to tell you you're making progress and you're doing good. And I'm going to point out that you've done better than you did last time. But you don't just say, oh, that's great, when they're trying to do a handstand and they just did a face plant.
Speaking of face plants, I have a friend of mine who has two friends of mine who have two kids, and they went skiing one time, and I think they were learning how to snowboard. And the one girl, they were just the beginning of the day, they were going to get snowboarding lessons, and the one girl bit it, face plant, bloody nose, the works. And so she picked her up and everything, made sure she was all right. She goes, I really don't feel like doing this. And Mom's like, okay. The ski instructor came up. He was a young guy, like almost like a surfer. Oh, dude. Walked up and said, whoa, what an awesome face plant you must have had. I don't know exactly what he said, but he said that must have been hellacious. Are you doing all right? Are you going to still join us? And he had given her he gave her self-respect back. He gave her self-esteem back. Said, that's awesome. Everybody goes through that. You want to come play? And she goes, yeah, I do. Can I go, Mama? And the mother was like, absolutely. If you want to, let's just clean you up a little bit and let you go. So you can also turn those not so great handstands or face plant into something as a life lesson and say, that's awesome. That was the best face plant you ever did or whatever. Way to learn, Well,
that, to me, that's a basic parenting 101 is when your kid's learning to walk or even learning to stand and they fall on their butt. You don't go, oh my God, and freak them out, make them cry.
Right.
You laugh if it's real. Okay. Little side note, shiny moment. My kids and I roughhouse. And when I roughhouse, we slap the crap out of each other in the slap game. And we don't do it very often. We usually do it on the arm. And every once in a while, we'll start smacking faces. And, of course, me being the bear, I'm really careful with them, right? I don't knock them to a wall. But they don't. They're kids. They don't know how to hold back. And they can hit. I tell you what, man, they put some red marks on my arm. And my daughter's got laser targeting and hits the same spot every time, so I have to quit. I call uncle on her. But the other night, she started the slap game, and her brother went to slap her, and she didn't know, and she stepped into it, and it was a smack, and it was bad. But we couldn't help it. We laughed. And even through her crying because it hurt, she was laughing. Because she realized the humor in it, even though it didn't feel good. And it doesn't stop her from wanting to do it. She didn't throw a fit. I hugged her. Even while I'm laughing, I'm hugging her, going, I understand you're hurt, but that was hilarious. I'm sorry. But that's parenting 101 is not to slap your kids around, but you don't give them the impression that what just happened was bad. You give them the impression of, all right, get back up.
Yeah, and never, you're stupid or you can't do this or you're worthless. And yet that's what some people get. So we have to break ourselves of that and not be a victim of that. That's why, remember, what you think about yourself is what matters most.
Yes. And getting that, and that's that, man, I just want to put a spotlight on. The negative you think about yourself matters more than the positive that somebody's telling you. So you need to fix that.
Right. So the converse is true as well. The positive you think about yourself matters more than the negative what somebody else is telling you. And that can be your armor. You talked about how can you have resilience. If you think positively about yourself, somebody says you can't do that, and you think in your head, you can't. I can, and I will. Then you move forward with that. You armor yourself with that, thinking positive about yourself instead, and it's not pushing people out. It's not building up a wall so nobody comes, gets close to you. And I think that's how you get farther.
Well, see, walls and barriers, we might have to come back to that at some point. Walls and barriers are definitely two different things. To me, anyway. Walls keep people out. Barriers just say, hey, there's a danger zone over here. People can still jump over the barrier and problems ensue. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm sorry, let's quote my friend Lala. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
I love you, Lala. I'm just picking on you a little bit. So we still got time.
All right, good. Then I'm going to go. Let's wind it down just a little bit. When it comes to other people's perceptions, other people's opinion, remember, it's none of your business what others think of you. Somebody has a bad opinion. If they're talking bad about you at the water cooler, it's none of your business. Somebody comes in, hey, Marcy said this. It's none of my business what people think about me. That way, I don't have to think bad about that person, and I can do my job or I can live my life. I've said that a couple of times. It's like, please don't tell me. I don't want to know. I still want to be able to interact with them, and maybe I'll pull back a little bit, but I don't want to know. I don't need to be angry. I'm not angry right now. Only you can decide what your life is about, what's important and what's not important. So ultimately, this is your life. Your family is important to you, but this is your life. You get to make those decisions. It's called, being a man or a woman. You make those decisions, and you blaze that trail from that point on. Remember, they are afraid, quote unquote, afraid of you as you are of them. Or they don't want to look bad in front of you, just like you don't want to look bad in front of them. Okay. If you remember that.
That one I'll take. It's like, if they're afraid of me as I am of them, they're not afraid of me because I'm not afraid of them.
Right, but you also don't want to look bad in front of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that helped me. I was at a landmark forum meeting, and they did an exercise where they had us, sitting in our chairs, and we bent over, closed our eyes, and they're like, okay, imagine, feel fear, really, really feel fear, and then you're really afraid of the people next to you, and then you're really afraid of everybody in the room, and then you're really afraid of everybody in this hotel, and then everybody in the city, and everybody in the country, and everybody in the world. And you really feel that fear. Now flip it around. The world is afraid of you. And it brought it all the way back to everybody being concerned about what you thought, everything. And take that with you and know that to be true. I went home that night. I was staying in a hotel in a not so very good part of town. And I got into an elevator with these two individuals that looked very, very tough. And as the doors closed and we're looking forward and we're starting to rise up, I turned to them and I said, "Hi." And the woman jumped. And it stayed with me a couple of weeks, that kind of fearlessness. So remember, they're as quote-unquote afraid of you as you are of them. And when it comes to your life, you are responsible. Yours is the opinion that matters. So those are the 4 things. It's none of your business what others think of you. Only you can decide what your life is about, what's important and what's not important. Remember, they are as afraid of you as you are of them. And when it comes to your life, you are responsible. Yours is the opinion that matters.
Right. And I'd like to just back that up to amen and pass the plate to focus on not just what you do, but who you are. When I go to work, I do the best work I can for myself. It doesn't matter if my boss gives me praise. It doesn't matter if my coworkers hate me. I go home and sleep good at night because I did what I do because it's good. That also helps shelter me from the negative emotions of what people say. That, like you said, it's not my problem. It's not my business. What other people think of me, other people's perception is not mine. But also when someone's like, "Oh, you're so great, I don't let that go to my head either because it doesn't matter. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for the constructive criticism. Thank you for the unconstructive criticism. Thank you for the praise. Either way you cut it, I'm doing this because I'm putting my best out. And that helps you get to ignoring the O.P.P.
Right. Well, I think that closes out the show for the most part. We went some interesting directions with other people's opinions than I thought we were going to go, but I think we covered some stuff. Judging on the reaction in the chat room, I think we covered some stuff that people wanted to hear. Now, right now, I want to say congratulations to 7th Row Center. They are 1 year old. 1 year old! Today/tomorrow. So I wanted to whoop whoop from the other side of live. Both, Charles told me about it, and it's like, oh, we need to say happy birthday to you. All right, there, we're done with that. All right, my brother, you want to start pimping us out? We got a couple of new things to chat about.
Yes, we do. We today dove into the archives and found out that if you go to theothersidealive.com, like we've been suggesting, you can get every show that's ever been done on The Other Side of Live. If you go to Mordant World and try to find it that way, or have the Mordant World one bookmarked, go through The Other Side of Live. You can find the shows. Also, as we mentioned last week, we're trying to do bigger, better, more. If we've given you something to change your life, if we've touched you in any way that's helped, if we just entertain you for an hour, however you want to see it, we'd love to have your support. There's a new tab on all of our Facebook pages, Mordant World, The Other Side of Live, BC and Tosol, and House of the Bear on Facebook, that just says support us, as our Amazon search box. And if you so choose, you can donate. And if you donate, what do we talk about taking people who go to the next level, sir?
What?
Those who support us to get us to our next level, we say they are true believers.
True believers. Tosol true believers. I'm like, what are you that? Oh, yeah, that's right. We did talk about that. Tosol true believers. Yes, indeed. And
what does that mean to you real quick?
It means it's somebody that really believes in what we do. And, they've been with us not necessarily from the beginning, but they believe enough that they want to help. They want to help the process. They want to help, the patron of the arts. Now, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, we are live every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time at mordantworld.com/NAS. And, of course, the NAS stands for No Agenda Stream. Those of you who are listening to us live now, you can find older episodes at theothersideoflive.com and on iTunes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. This is R. Mordant Mon.
and the I don't know bear.
So raise your
Ciao, dream catchers.
So raise your glass if you are the one. And all right,
Boom, baby.
all night.